I remember I was about 5 years old. My dad said, "Son, climb up on that chair and start stirring that pot of melted butter while I'll sprinkle in some flour." And I didn't realize that I was actually stirring and making a roux for a delicious breakfast. But I had just graduated, because before I would be the guy that would toast the toast and then cut it and make those little toast points. And then he had me up there stirring this up, and he says, don't stop, and don't let it burn. When it got to be just the right color, he added the milk, and he was also separating the chipped beef. And he chopped that up and put that in there and stirred it in. The smell was so good. And then next thing you know, everybody would just eat that delicious chipped beef and gravy on toast tips. And it was fabulous. I didn't know that all of my brothers and sisters had done the same thing before me. And then later on, Mom said, "Come on to the kitchen. I want you to crank this crank." It's a meat grinder. While I put in the field corn and grind that up. And she would make these fritters, corn fritters. In Panama, they would make these things with all kinds of things like beans or corn or whatever they'd have, and they would fry them up, fritadas, and they were delicious. But as we grew up in the family, we'd always set an extra place at the table, because you never know if you'd have a guest. Mom was so involved with everything. She was, well, there was, some of you might remember, a United Nations Association in Battle Creek. So we had people from all over coming over for dinner, and we'd learn about their foods, and sometimes we'd eat their foods too. And it was just delicious. But the food in Panama was absolutely international. Can you imagine 2 oceans, people traveling through there from all over the world, leaving their imprint of their foods? Well, that's the foods we would eat. It was amazing. But to me, that was every day. I enjoyed it. It was a bit later. Mom was cooking up some arroz con pollo. You know what that is? Yeah, it's stewed chicken on rice, but Panamanian style. It's used for weddings because they heap it up, the big pile of beautiful red rice, because it has tomato paste. When you cook the chicken and you take that delicious sauce, it has garlic and has oregano, and it has all these delicious things in there, and 1 bay leaf. And you would mix that in with the rice and pile those pieces of chicken all around it, and then cover it with pimento olives, green ones, and then a bunch of peas, and made this beautiful bomb, and it's steaming hot. And you walk in and place it on the table, and everybody says, "Ooh." So that was one of the things that she had me do. She had me stir the rice, and she'd have me look at it and tell me, I'd have to tell her as soon as it was clear and I could see through it, and it started to turn a little bit amber, it was ready. That's when she'd put in her chicken broth or whatever else she had to put in there to make it taste just right. All these things were happening as I was growing up, and I thought, well, that's how everybody grows up. Eventually, I got involved in food, and that's another story. But I did get married to a woman from Ecuador, an Italian Ecuadorian. Oh, great cook. I learned about humitas, all kinds of delicious foods that they do in Ecuador. And she learned about Panamanian food. So we cooked together. And the kids, of course, we had 3, Joseph, Christopher, and Sophia. And by the time Joseph was 7, he already knew how to stir the pot. He knew how to make the toast tips. He was excellent. Christopher, at 4, he was starting with the toast. But Sophia, at 2, was by taster. So what happened then is that eventually my wife said, "I'm getting homesick. I want to go back to Ecuador and see the family, much as you did when you were 4. I said, "Yeah, that's right. I did see my parents, my grandparents, and uncles and aunts, and all the family in Panama when I was a little bitty guy." Okay, let the kids go to South America. They went all the way to Guayaquil, Ecuador, right on the Pacific coast. It's beautiful. And their family there, they have shrimp farms, they own all kinds of businesses, just a very successful Italian Ecuadorian family. So off she went, and what I did, just the day as we were in the airport, little Joseph looked at me in the eyes, and I could see little tears welling up just under his eyes. And he said, "Bye, Dad." I didn't know. It would be 14 years later that he would come back to the United States to see his dad. What was really beautiful is that we kept in touch. We'd be sending things. I'd send little recordings of stories so they'd hear my voice, call them on the phone, send them little cards. They would send me little things too, drawings they did in school. And I was thinking all this time, I wonder, is somebody teaching them the family traditions? How to cook, how to take care of themselves, how to do all the things that a dad has to teach their children. She decided she wasn't going to come back. And I thought about that and I said, well, I will help kids in the United States that don't have fathers, or maybe don't have mothers, or maybe they're coming from broken homes, and maybe I can make a difference. So I found an opportunity to go to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was there for 10 years. I must have helped 1,000 kids. Youth organizations, teaching, working in the community, working in the churches. Every chance I had a chance to talk with a kid, I looked at them as if they were mine. And I said, maybe I can make a difference for this one kid. It was amazing. I came back to the United States, and some of the kids that I helped here, they're all growing up. Some of them were managers. One was a manager at McDonald's. Others were, they were working in the community. I would see them in the streets. I'd see them at Myers, and they say, "Hi, Mr. Rose." And I said, "Hi." So these are my kids. They're all growing up. They're beautiful. I got this call when I was in Pittsburgh. This was just before Joseph was 21. He said, "Dad, I'm coming up to see you." I said, "Wow, when you coming?" It's about 90 days. I said, "Great." And I said, "What am I going to do to prepare for him?" "I know. I'll stop shaving." So I didn't shave. Oh, I'd never seen it, but I had before. But here's this big beard coming out. It had beautiful white and gray streaks on it, and I looked like Blackbeard, more or less. So then I went to the airport. Now his mother had remarried and divorced, which gave me license. I remarried and stayed married. And boy, was I happy, because she joined me when we went to the airport, to Detroit Metro, and here came this big, tall, beautiful 6-foot man, dark complexion, perfectly, the guy's, amazing. He works out. So, and then he comes over and gives me this big bear hug and says, "Hi, Dad." And I could see the tears welling in his eyes. It wasn't too much longer. I found out that, hey, there are a lot of opportunities. We can do things together. We were in Pittsburgh, after all. That's a pretty big city. Well, he helped me cook. We were cooking together, talking stories and having a great time. And we were calling Ecuador, talking with Christopher and Sophia, telling about what was going on. The family was feeling like we were just pulling together, even though we were far apart. We were all still together because we had things in common. We learned about foods that were done, that he did in Ecuador, and he was teaching me some things. And then I was teaching him the things from Panama and the United States, and we were celebrating every American holiday. And then one day, I said, "Hey, Thanksgiving's around the corner. Let's invite some friends." So we filled the house with friends, and I got this biggest turkey I could get, barely could put it in the oven. We roasted it, it came out beautiful. It was golden brown, and I took off my apron, and I said, "Joseph, put on this apron." I took my French knife and the big fork, and I said, "Here, these are yours. You cut the turkey." So he took that turkey, and he smiled at me, and he cut that thing so beautifully. He put it on a big platter, And he cut, you know how you had to remove the breast and cut them in thin slices? He did it perfectly, balanced on both sides. And it was just arranged like a fancy 5-star restaurant. And he walked in and he set it on the table. I could have applauded for him. And then I knew that the family tradition is continuing.